The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
It's Friday, the second day of June 2023. Welcome to Bermuda's Daily Talk Show. It's the Daily Hour brought to you by the BAC Group of Companies, Medicals, and Lindos. I'm Jamal Hartman. She's Sherry Vanderpool. And Maya Palacio will be with us in a bit to bring you the latest in her news break brought to you by People's Pharmacy. Sister Sherry, you were hinting at something about this month yesterday, and it still hasn't come to me.
Yeah, and it wouldn't because you're a hater like that, but that's fine. That's what comes along with being born in June. You haters sometimes are just drawn to you like that. Unlike my lovely co-host Larry, who acknowledged that June 1st started, and it's my birthday month, and that's why I love Larry more than I love you.
I don't remember him saying anything, but I would have remembered. I don't remember. So what day is your birthday again, Sherry?
It's June 21st, the first day of summer, the best day of the year. And you should already know that slogan.
I thought it was like the 16, 17. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know that's for other people, but the 21st is the, summer solstice is what Farah was trying to explain to you, because it's the longest day of the year of sun and light and all of that great stuff.
Now it makes sense because, so bright and happy and cheery you are, and, just love seeing Sister Summer up in the house.
Sister Summer. I feel like your audio is a little different, Jamal. That's true.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, you can't hear yourself? No. I wish I thought that.
You know what? It's been a few days. And that's what it is. Get it out. It's been a few days.
No. I just good morning to you, Auntie Karen. Good morning, TGIF to you all. And all right, Sherry's favorite day of the week, folks. she don't like you all, so she gotta, Anyway.
I don't like you all. Okay.
Anyway, greetings, everyone. Thanks for making us part of your daily routine. A good one today as we welcome the chairman of the Bermuda Alliance, Aguinaldo Medeiros, onto the show. We're going to be discussing the state of the opposition. The Daily Play is a name that place. So, it's a things you should know.
Oh, I was like, don't do that to me, Jamal.
No, let me just pull out.
And don't say it's easy because
I don't know what it's going to be.
Okay, because I think every time you say this is easy, I'm like, I don't know that.
We asked this question already. What is the closest planet to the sun? We were asked that already.
No. Thank God.
You don't know the answer?
No.
Okay.
This little thing is getting on my nerves. Okay.
Sherry's having a little wardrobe malfunction, not on the levels of Janet, but folks, don't forget to subscribe on our website and follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Let's jump right into it, Sherry, because first off, I want to say, I know most of us in the group spent time yesterday watching the homegoing celebration for Marco Warren. Beautiful service. I was luckily enough working from home, so I'm on my work computer and had it up on my main computer, and wonderful service. I mean, while he may not have been here long, less than 30 years, you can tell the impact he made. So
and love.
Yeah.
He was loved and he gave love, and it was amazing. I was at work, Jamal, but when people were like, what are you doing? I said, I'm at a funeral right now. please
Yeah,
be
yeah.
quiet.
It's,
They were like, oh, I'm so sorry.
real. Like I had it up, doors had to be closed around her because it was up. And
Yeah,
again,
but it was beautiful.
I one thing I will say, a big takeaway from that is it's not, you know, how long you're here, but it's about what you do while you are here. And
The
so,
impact.
you know, seriously, you don't need a long time to make a big impact. And so once
That
again,
gave me chills, Jamal.
sending love, love, love to everyone who knew him. And, may all that he did live through everyone who had a chance to, be touched by him in their life. So, that said, I thought that would have been the story of yesterday, but it was not necessarily the entire story. Yesterday morning, there was a video that was circulating in Bermuda, and that video showed a Gombe whip someone in the crowd, someone who went, and I don't know. Some people are saying the person lady went to put down money. I don't know. I was not there. I'm not. My opinion's not going to be based on that. But there were a lot of arguments. And the question of the morning, for those who may not know, so basically, the Gombeans look to be dancing at Harbor Night. A woman was whipped, like with the actual whip. It touched her, it looked like in the video, by, I believe, someone who's the Gombe captain. It's caused a lot of controversy on social media between people who say she knew the rules, that's why she reacted the way she did. Others who were saying, at what point do we understand that certain traditions, we just can't accept certain things anymore, like traditions evolve? Um, it's everyone has an opinion on it, and I'm very honest. I just always thought that when the Gumbays were dancing, you stand out on the outside, you throw the money in, you never walk in there. I didn't know it was an actual rule. You know what I'm saying? I love the Gumbays, but I'm honest enough to say that I didn't know that much in terms of, you can't break the line or go in the circle. I just thought it was a cultural thing where we stood around. What can we learn from that incident, though? Because you have people that are responding. It couldn't have been my mother, right? It would have turned out differently. We have people who respect the culture, but are saying that this part of the culture we have to leave behind.
Mm.
We have people who are saying culture and traditions must be saved, and you cannot allow people to break your culture and tradition. At the end of the day, let me just yes or no, and be brave enough to say answer, folks. Honestly, yes or no. Do you believe the Gombe captain was wrong for whipping the lady? Yes or no? Just I want to see who's brave enough to actually say yes or no, because this is something that is controversial, and there's no, in my opinion, there's no right or wrong answer because we're going to believe what we believe based on where we stand and what we know, right? But do you
Mm-hmm.
believe that the Gombe captain was wrong? Yes or no, Sherry?
Um, I don't believe that they were wrong for ripping them.
Mhm,
I do have a caveat.
mhm,
I do believe that it was done with a little bit too much force.
mhm. Okay.
So that part, yeah.
Okay. Sarah Simmons says no. She doesn't believe the Gombe captain was wrong. Angeline Butler says no. Al Simmons says no. Sean DeShield says yes. Yolanda Richards says no. Makita Lee says no. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. If you ask me, if you showed me that video and asked me, is the Gombe captain wrong for whipping that person? I would have immediately said, yeah. And I'll tell you why. Tell you why. We live in an age where when we grew up and prior, it was normal for parents to beat their children and hit their children, right? Nowadays, it's considered abuse. But when you
Mhm.
understand the history of beatings and whippings and discipline through force like that, of how, when Black people were enslaved, The reason they beat their children is they wanted to whoop them so that their masters or owners didn't whip their children in a more harmful way, right? So you learn this. So if you showed me that, I would say that seems a bit excessive. I thought maybe they could have hit the whip in front. But then it's like, you're wondering, well, is this repeatable? Is this something that she was warned about and told about? Now you start to get into the justification and trying to understand, because if she was already told, what's that old saying parents you say, if you don't listen, you will feel. Right? So I get both sides of the argument. I'm here. I'm going to be honest with you folks. I love the Gumbians, but I'm here to learn. But I do agree with people that just because something was culture and history doesn't mean that it still has the same place today. Cherie Deal, she says, yes, she thinks so. It was, she doesn't agree with it. Go ahead, Sherry. What you got for us?
And I was waiting, and I was going to put her on the spot, and I was like, I am interested in hearing what Sam Cat Place has to say, coming from, a family of Gumbies. Yeah. And she says, from my experience watching family, the captain should have hit the pavement near her. I have seen my uncle in the past hit the pavement, not a person, especially a spectator. Exercise some tact. So,
Sherry, in saying that, that's what I was saying. Like I thought, I've seen them hit the whip against the ground. I've never seen them actually catch a person. I've never seen that.
So it leads me to part of it, Jamal. Like, did they know each other as well? You know what I mean? Outside of, right. So that's possible that she might have a relationship with them, and like you said, their reaction wasn't one of surprise, actually.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, Sherry. It's like it seemed like they had a relationship, maybe knew each other. Does she have a child or a grandchild in the group? We don't know these things, but again, first look, it seemed wrong. I think most people, right, it would seem wrong. Now, again, what can we learn from the recent Gumbe incident? Let us know, folks. Renee Simmons says, if the Gumbians want to evolve into the tourist industry culturally, they need to change certain rules because tourists don't know the culture nor rules. Times have changed. Well, I have an issue with Gumbians becoming commercially, attractive for tourists. I'm going to be honest with you. Just like cotton, I think some things should be sacred. We can perform in front of tourists, but we must not commercialize. But again, we live in a commercialized world. But that's neither here nor there. To your point, I don't disagree for this reason, Renee. What does the average Bermudian tourist look like? Old, white, ready to die, right? That's not my words. That's what they would say in Boston. What they said, old, something dead, nearly dead, something.
Just took me by surprise, Jamal.
I'm sorry, that's not my words, guys. But I say that because imagine them seeing this. They're either, one, they're going to think this is a part of the act, right? Or two, what did I just witness? And in the digital age where things go viral, I'm not quite sure that's a good look. Go ahead, Sherry.
I was going to say, but if it was a tourist that did that, I don't think that tourist would have been whipped, because it would have been the assumption. It would have been the assumption that they didn't know the rules, unlike the lady that was present at the time. That would have been the assumption.
I'm glad you said that. You said
I walked into it.
No, but you said it a bit more diplomatic than me, because I was going to say, I don't think they do that to a white person. But I'm just saying, white people are not the ones that are usually getting whipped. I'm just saying. Sean DeShield says he could have asked her to stop what she was doing first. Besides the whip, is supposed to represent something completely different. So, well, Sean, we don't know that. And I while I get your point, I don't disagree. We don't know that the captain didn't ask the woman prior. We don't know that she wasn't warned, right? Yeah, sure.
No, so then I put on a different hat, and it's like, okay, what example are we showing children? Is this being used as a threat technique? And I then go to all different types of things, like what are they doing in practice? Like, So maybe I'm not trying to go down that pathway, but again, that's kind of where my mind ended up going in the lenses that I look through sometimes. And
Yeah.
so we do have to also be mindful of that with the culture of violence and so forth. I hope there was some conversation and explanation about what that looked like and what that was, or the relationship with the woman or something, because now are we teaching young boys to whip women? Like, it could go so many different ways.
Hey, Sherry, you ain't lying. You are not lying. Marquita Lee said that was her question. Was she previously warned? I think that's a valid question. I think so, folks. Like, we don't know. Ellen Kate Horton says yes. That is to the earlier question. Do you agree that it was excessive? Do you think it was wrong? She says yes. Angeline Butler says, not wrong, but I agree with Sam Cat Place. Whip the ground, but it is obvious that the lady knew. Again, I want to say that again, folks. I'm speaking from a place of ignorance. I don't know. I don't know if you all know exactly what happened, but I don't know. I'm doing what most of us do. We see a video, we react based on what we see,
Mm-hmm.
and then we start to draw our own conclusions and make assumptions, saying, okay, maybe they knew each other, maybe she was warned. I don't know. I just don't know. Sean, the Shield says, would he have whipped his own mother or sister? Well, with the force he did that, Sean, maybe, but that's a good question, because that woman is someone's mother. She's someone's probably sister, someone's daughter, someone's grandmother, right? What you got, Sherry?
Sorry, I think my computer's lagging a little bit. Karen Simmons says, hitting a person was wrong. Hitting the ground is suffice. I remember that there is enough people in the crowd who are telling you what is expected when the dancers are in formation.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I just go with hitting the ground. I've always seen the whips, right near where a person is. So I get that. Renee Simmons says, how would you distinguish all tourists are not white? The whipping was a fear tactic for me as a child following the Gumbears. I am still fearful at times. I don't think.
Interesting.
Here's how you distinguish. We know who's Bermudian. We know. Having worked in tourism, we know who's Bermudian. And then, to Cheryl's point, what if it was a tourist? That's why I use the term white, because I doubt that this would have. Again, they've probably done it to white people. I'm not going to say they haven't, but I think it's highly unlikely. So I think the way we react, to me, there's so many questions about this, and it's deep.
And I think us as Bermudians, when it comes to tourists, we become protective. And I think if a tourist would have entered, Bermudians would have like, no, don't do that. You don't want to do that, So I do think
I ought to push them. Yeah, right there. I'm like that. I'm just
the thoughts and the views of are not reflecting it. But so I do think that that's kind of who we are as well, that we probably would have been protective of that person. And so again, I feel like this lady knew, and I feel like they might have had a relationship in regards to knowing each other.
Hey, the PLP like including the Gumbears in the events. Maybe I'll go around there, push David back. Yeah, back. In the middle got his dance. No, he likes dancing. Got his dance on. That's what
Jamal, you have another question.
Okay. Nicole Walker says, online comments suggest she was spoken to, being in the way a few times. However, she may have also been told to place her money across the way. But I don't agree with the whipping too far. So if she was told a number of times and she didn't adhere, we don't agree with the whipping. What was supposed to be done? Was the captain supposed to stop what he was doing, go over and say, ma'am, you continuously disrespecting us. Please just remove yourself as a warning. Like what more could have been done to avoid the whipping? Angeline Butler says, personal. Years ago, back in the 50s, a Gombe threw his hatchet up and it hit my uncle in the head, and apparently my grandfather retaliated against the Gombe. Oh my. Wow. Angeline come from a family of fighters, I see. Charles H. Jefferson II says, my thing is she didn't look upset. So why should I be? It appeared she knew she wasn't right. That's what I got from the video. She seemed, Charles, it seems like she kind of knew that she was in the wrong based on her reaction. She scooted right back over to her side. And for all of us that may say, oh, he should have whipped the ground, well, her back was to the Gumby. So him whipping the ground probably wouldn't have got her attention. I mean, maybe it would have if she would have heard it. Cherie Dill says, for optics and as an onlooker, it was unacceptable. Most won't know history. A kid looking on would likely see a woman being whipped, old tradition or not. When is this acceptable in today's society? Reenactment is very different from actual enforcement. Sean says, violence is not the answer, as where exactly was she going to run? Sorry. Violence was not the answer, as where exactly was she going to run? Anthony Pete says, does Gombe's dance etiquette exist? Many a time, questions are asked by visitors, some a little under the influence. Okay. And Samcat Place says, but it does make for a good history lesson. And I think that's the purpose of the conversation, Samcat Place, is what can we learn from this? Number one, so many of us enjoy the Gombes, but many of us don't know the history of the Gombes.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my biggest takeaways from this. Number two, Black people especially, we should know this. Just because something is culture and tradition doesn't mean we need to hang on to all aspects of it. I know that's hard for us, but it's true. Not every piece of history is good history. And we've got to come to grips with that. There are things that have been culture and history that were not in our best interests.
Yeah.
This is one of them to many people. There are a lot of people who don't know those rules, people. And what do they say? You don't just spank and beat children. You discipline them and explain to them what they did wrong, where they went wrong, so that they can do things right going forward. Sarah, you've got something from the audience?
Yeah, and I would say, closing it out in this sense, we need to be educated more about this tradition. And I'm just going to add, we all know Shawande Butterfield is out there doing some community work with, and teaching and educating, at least our children about the Gombe experience. I'm going to talk to him about that. I need a personal education myself.
Take a bunch of others. She's listening to the class. Nicole Walker says, given the history of Gombe, slavery, and whipping, doing this to a Black woman in particular doesn't sit right with me. And we'll close it out with Cherie Dill saying, my main question was, what was the impact of the whip? Was it a slight smack / sting, or was it as harsh as it looked? She did seem unfazed, so maybe it looked harder than it was. Well,
maybe
unfazed, maybe she's had it done before. I don't know. And I'm not being funny. You just never know. She could be we know there are certain people who follow certain troops regularly. So anyway, folks, let's bring Maya in for the Daily Hour news break, see what she's got for us over there. And then we have Aguinaldo Medeiros, the chairman of the One Bermuda Alliance, join us. Conversation about the state of the opposition. All right. Greetings, Maya. I try to beat you to it today because
I know, because I was like, good morning. You got me right on the first G. I couldn't even get it out.
I left her hanging yesterday. What, Maya, I don't know if you want to add to this, but as I said, I think I'm not, I know I talk a lot, but folks, I keep telling you I'm not an expert. I don't know a lot of stuff. I learned stuff from this show, and I'm going to continue to learn. I love gumbears, but I'm not an expert at gumbears. As Sherry just mentioned, Shawande, his mom, they've shared a lot of information on this show, but they're out in the schools and doing all these things. So, forgive us who don't know. But what do you have any thoughts? I mean, you've seen the video, right?
I have seen the video.
Mm. And
I'm gonna just tell you what I mean. I don't really have a full opinion on it. The only thing I would love to see is some explanation from the Gombe community, just so that we all understand. Like, if it is something that's just like where I see people messaging and writing saying, "Oh, you don't understand Bermuda, like the Gombe culture or the history, if you don't understand why this is like okay," and like people justifying it. So I would love to see the Gombe community and hearing, whatever the justification is on it, if that is something that is normal practice, or hearing the side as to what should be done or what changes they made, whatever it might be. I just want to hear from the Gombe community themselves. And as well as someone wrote in the comments, like, if she wasn't angry, why should I be? I would love to hear even her opinion on it as well. The people that it actually impacts and happens to, that's whose opinion I prefer to hear. Not that I don't believe that everyone should like tune in and have their opinion, because I think these discussions bring those forward, but I would love to hear from the people that it happened to and the people involved.
well, to that point, I would love to hear every child's opinion about when they get spanked from their parents. I want to know how it makes them feel. We don't do that. We only give people opinions when we deem valid, and we use this excuse, well, an adult, they have to be an adult. No, I agree with you, but I agree that across the board, we need to ask people how it makes them feel. Maybe Sherry does that in her job, but it shouldn't be just her job. We have long accepted things as the norm. And to Sean Smith's point, I did not see the video, but it sounds like we are talking out of both sides of our mouths. 1 minute we tell people hitting is wrong, irrespective of the situation, but this time it was okay. Why? Because tradition, culture, history. Again, my opinion is not fully developed with an understanding, but what I will say is optics, first look, not sure that's the one.
Yeah. On a personal note, I would definitely say, if you do hit or whip your children and then wonder why they're not telling you about the things that are going on in their lives, like, maybe that's a reason. I'm just saying, you shouldn't expect someone that you're hitting to come to you with their problems.
Good point.
Yeah.
All righty, well, what you got for us today, Sister Maya?
This morning we're starting out as I normally always do when it comes to the road collisions in Bermuda. Luckily, I'm not reporting on any collisions, but there is the newest update from Operation Vega. Now, yesterday we had on Minister Dennis Lister, who was talking, MP Dennis Lister, who is the chairman of the Bermuda Road Safety Council, and he was talking about one of the impacts of having the Operation Vega, but seeing how either we've decreased in our collisions or we've exceeded them. I know you mentioned before the pandemic, things were starting to go down. Now we're in a point where it's starting to get worse. So here are the stats. The most recent Operation Vega statistics indicate that between January and May of 2023, there were 117 arrests for impaired driving. And for the same period in 2022, so last year, there were 71 such arrests. So we've exceeded the amount from last year as well. So we're doing bad. We've gotten worse in our driving habits here in Bermuda.
Okay, so I'm going to try to spin this into a positive. Forgive me. I just want to, right? So let's say the reason there's more is because there's more stops happening. Is there any data to say that that's the case?
Operation Vega has been going on for more than a year. So last year would have been still with Operation Vega. So that wouldn't be the case for these statistics as it being higher, because they were out just the same amount as they are.
I tried. No, so I'm look, and I'm not being funny. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm literally, look, we had an entire conversation yesterday about a more sober community, which to me, I enjoyed it very much because the audience, I mean, you all had some solutions. My hope is that your fellow community, friends and family and colleagues and government and leaders actually listen to the things that you're saying.
And the chief inspector, Robert Caldwell, who put out these statistics and was sharing about the impaired driving, he says to say that these numbers are concerning would be an understatement. Remember, every time you operate a vehicle while impaired, there is a potential to cause significant damage, life-altering injury, or death. Whilst the BPS has stepped up patrol, a part of Operation Vega, police presence alone cannot prevent drinking and driving. Roadside supply checkpoints are advertised on the days in advance of them being implemented, yet individuals still arrested for impaired driving during these exercises. They let us know, and then we still.
Well, it's if your parents, they tell you not to do something, right? They do. They say, Sherry, don't go put your hand over that fire. Sherry, what you gonna do as a 4-year-old child?
Put my hand on the fire.
You're gonna learn the hard way. But Sherry, you're a
Yeah.
4-year-old child. We're adults. These are adults. These are not children being put. We know better. The question is, how can we get people to do better? We all know better.
Okay.
Sorry, Maya.
That's okay. It reminds me of what Sancho said the other day on the show that really struck me. I think we were talking about mental health, and you talked about it, Jamal. He said behind stage, you guys were talking. He said whether or not Bermuda has a strong issue with mental health, and then Sancho said to you, like, well, we all smile happily and drink. So what does that tell you? And it's just like there's a lot going on underneath the surface that needs to be addressed. But yes, moving on, there was another police announcement that was given saying the Bermuda Police Service is aware of a voice note accompanied by video clips warning residents to be aware of an individual suspect of breaking into properties on 2nd Avenue in Pembroke. A report has been received from a member of the public and investigations have commenced. Anyone with any information on this matter is urged to call 211 or the police main line 295-0011. Police want to also advise that they do not wish for anyone to confront somebody if you suspect them of having to break into your residence. Please instead contact the police to let them know what has happened and don't try to take it upon yourself to interject to this person.
Yeah, I think that's good advice by the police. You don't want to be playing hero. There's laws that exist. So give them your video evidence, give them what they need to do their job, and follow up, make sure they do it.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys. Have either of you ever heard of pickleball?
Yeah.
Yes.
Job, and they've been trying to get me to go every Monday.
Yes. It's
okay. All right. I expected Jamal to know. I didn't know you know, Sherry, because I know that pickleball is like the second largest sport or whatever in Florida. It's pretty big. Well, here's a quick little video that I have about pickleball. So hope you guys enjoy. Let it play out.
Yes, I have heard of pickleball.
Best way possible, describe to me what pickleball is.
Nah, you done it.
I have no idea what pickleball is.
I don't know, it looked like a small version of tennis, but the balls were just clunky, sound real hard. That's why I was wondering what it was when I heard it.
It might have to do something with like a sport maybe. I'm thinking maybe like hockey or something. I don't know.
It's like hockey, except that you got a round ball instead of a puck. That's my sense of what pickleball is. Okay, tennis. Okay, well, my brother's telling me that, whispering to me that maybe tennis. He might know what pickleball is. Like miniature tennis. That'll be my synopsis, yeah.
All right. Okay, do you think it's played with a racket or a paddle?
I saw them, it was like small rackets.
A paddle.
It was a paddle? I thought I saw mesh. Didn't I see mesh? No? It was like solid things?
Do you know that pickleball is actually, there's only been private courts in Bermuda of pickleball, and there's never been a public one?
There's only been private courts.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, but it doesn't surprise me because I haven't seen them in the public space. But I'm thinking that somebody somewhere has a little spot or places that they play, because it seems like there's a particular demographic that probably has been painted previously, and it seems like they're trying to maybe get it to a broader community. Okay. But that's all I can give you right now. There seems to be a movement to expand interest and access to it.
Yeah. And there's going to be more access because they actually opened the first ever public court on Saturday.
In Bermuda?
Yep.
Where is it?
At the WER Joel Tennis Stadium. Pickleball is a racket paddle game that can be played at all ages with any skill set. Known to be a fast-growing sport, pickleball has extended beyond the private courts of Bermuda and is now launching their first ever public courts to introduce the sport to the broader community and the schools tomorrow, Saturday, June 3rd at 10 a.m.
in celebration of the opening of these public courts, because what had happened is that there's a number of pickleball courts around the island, right? Like, so there's Pompano and there's Pomander and there's, you know, some of the various hotels and at private residences. But until you have a public court, it's hard to bring it out to the whole community. Those are private courts, as a public court. So this is the opening on Saturday, June 3rd. It's the opening of the public courts, and in collaboration with the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Recreation, we're doing kind of a big launch, a big party. And it starts actually on the Friday with the schools, but that's just the schools. But on Saturday at 10 o'clock, we're going to officially open the courts. We're going to have some celebrity matches, just give people a go, people who've never played or they play other sports. We're going to come out and have a go, get a little coaching like what we did here today. And then we're going to have like different kinds of open play. So there's some spots for youth. There's some spots for seniors. So we have quite a few seniors. You see the sign-ups, 50, 60, 70 plus. We're going to come out and have a go, and then we have open play for people of all sorts of levels. And then towards the end of the day, we're having some exhibition matches where people who are at the 4.0 or 5.0, which is very good, going to show us how it really looks.
That's awesome. Yeah, they play it Mondays at my job, but I don't really, mess with nobody outside.
I would have only heard of it literally like the end of last year or something, Maya. So, and someone said it to me. I was like, what is that? And then after that, I've just continued to hear about it. So Jamal probably plays it all the time. I could see him.
Everybody else around me does, but I don't really mess with them.
It's finally being open to the public in Bermuda. That's going to be tomorrow, Saturday, at the WER Joel Stadium. So if anyone wants to try it or see what it's like, it's really good for anyone who literally even doesn't like playing sports or whatever. Like, you don't think that you're good at it. It's good for any skill set. So I played a bit. I enjoyed it.
Okay. All right. So I think we may have to have a little pickleball or something with TDH team.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so closing out the news today, a little bit of leftovers. I know that June is also Pride Month, even though we don't really celebrate Pride in June in Bermuda. Next month, in 2 months later in August is our Pride, and this is what is going on. It's called Homecoming for Bermuda, and these are the days in which you can participate in any Pride events. And tonight at Masterworks, as I talked about yesterday, Jordan Carey will be having their solo show at the Rick Ferris Galleries tonight. So if you're able to come out and see the kites that I showed in yesterday's broadcast, it will be 5:30 to 7 is the opening of it, but it'll be available throughout the month of June until the 27th for you to go check out the artwork by Jordan Carey.
Good stuff. What's the weather looking like?
Today, hoping that's better. Today it's going to be, again, cloudy, a lot of rain, heavy at times. It might ease a little bit lighter in the evening, but don't expect any sunshine, people. And I laughed at myself yesterday because, again, I was on here telling everyone that it's going to be rainy, and then I went out without a jacket, and I was very mad at myself. So we have a high of 77 degrees as well, so bring your raincoats wherever you go.
Not taking our own advice. What day is the year, Sherry? Give it to us.
Wow, today is Leave the Office Early Day. Today is for those of you who find yourself living to work instead of working to live. The annual holiday was founded by employee productivity expert Laura Stack in 2004 to raise awareness of the benefits of increased workplace productivity. The purpose of Leave Office Early Day is to demonstrate how making small adjustments in the way we approach our work can greatly improve the results of our work. So I know Jamal's been speaking about this, and we talk about work-life balance, So
I'm just going to say, I think 90% of the people I know don't need an excuse to leave work early. So take advantage today and just tell them Sherry does not speak on behalf of Sherry brought up earlier. I just want to play
The
this.
views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
When you leave your job and get in trouble with the company, don't put it on me. Don't put it on Maya. Don't put it on anybody. Sherry gave you. All right? Maya, thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend.
Have a great one, Maya.
All right, folks, we've got a guest coming up. Aguinaldo Medeiros, the chairman of the Bermuda Alliance, is joining us immediately after this break. Do not go anywhere. What did Phil say? Leave the office day. So in other words, it's Friday. Well, if you're Bermudian, yeah, that's what it means. Every Friday. Stick with us.
People's ACW, located at King Edward VII Memorial Hospital, carries over-the-counter medicines, toys, cards, and even toiletries. Our knowledgeable staff are there whether you're at emergency, visiting family, or a member of BHB staff, to show you our best even when you're feeling your worst. People's ACW, we're here for you.
Welcome to the new bulk store, Lindo's Next Level. Wake up in the morning with enough coffee to keep you running throughout the entire day. Your pet at home deserves the best. Stock up on dog food to keep your puppy happy. Need a quick, tasty lunch at home? Your chicken nuggets will be jumping right out of the freezer. What's a movie night without popcorn? You can never have too much. Lindo's Next Level. Why go anyplace else?
Mom's celebrating her 70th birthday next month. Have you noticed her age is catching up with her?
Yeah. Plus, she's having a hard time getting up and around like she's used to. I would sure hate to see her fall.
At Medical House Limited, we can help make life situations easier. We have electric beds, motorized scooters, bath stools, walkers, you name it.
Mom's been real good to us. We'll get her birthday and Christmas gifts from Medical House.
Medical House has relocated next to the Dandytown Field, number 6 Bakery Lane, Pembroke. Telephone 292-3622.
Welcome back to the big show. She's Sherry. I was going to say Sherry Durham, Sherry Vanderpool. I'm Jamal Hartman. It's the Daily Hour.
Many women.
The group of companies here, Medical House, Lindo's, and People's Pharmacy. Please don't forget to subscribe on our website, thedailyhour.com. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Without further ado, let's bring in our guest for the day. We've got the chairman of the One Bermuda Alliance, Aguinaldo Medeiros. Give him a warm TDH welcome, like we know how. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Well, thank you, Jamal, and it's a pleasure to meet you as well, Sherry. I'm very excited to be here. I'll tell you what, I moved to Bermuda about a year and a half ago, and I moved right in the beginning of the summer. And of course, being in the middle of the Christmas spirit and whatnot, I thought, let me tune into this thing called the Daily Hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was gonna help me say a few amens. And then I realized that the nature of your show, and I was equally excited because I thought, hey, man, this is the kind of show Bermuda needs at this very moment in our political history.
Amen. Where'd you move from to Bermuda? Where were you?
Well, I grew up in Bermuda. I went to kindergarten, public elementary school, the whole 9 yards here, right up through to Bermuda College. Mm-hmm. And I moved to Toronto. Didn't move. I went to school in Toronto in the 1986. Did a couple of degrees at York University in Toronto. Worked there for a couple of years. Incidentally, came back in 1992 to attend my grandfather's funeral, and saw a post posted for the former Bermuda Department of Tourism at the time as a business development manager. I was very humbled by the fact that I was able to have the post, and out of 72 applicants, which was even more exciting. And subsequently, I worked with the former Bermuda Department of Tourism for 15 years. And then for the last 15 years, I've essentially just been a private investor, self-directed investor, and my wife and I are raising 2 beautiful children, of which one just started university and one will be starting in September coming. So, so I've been back for about a year and a half now, and lo and behold, here I am talking to you as chairman of the opposition party. Who would ever think that?
Good stuff. Oh, well, you know what? It's interesting because with so many Bermudians leaving now, we need Bermudians definitely to return. Sherry and myself, Sherry based in Atlanta, I'm based in South Florida. There are so many Bermudians leaving. So it's an interesting, intriguing, and look, thank you for going back and doing the service you're doing. As you just mentioned, chairman of the One Bermuda Alliance. Just speak to us. What does a chairman do? Because we heard the term chairman of the party. Sherry just asked me a couple of weeks ago, which a lot of people don't know, what's the government whip, right? So just explain what is your role? What are your responsibilities as chairman of the OBA?
Well, in essence, I mean, as you know, we've got a parliamentary branch, and then of course we've comprising of parliamentarians and senators, and then we've got an executive branch. And so the chairman of the party, in essence, being myself, I feel my job is to actually galvanize that machinery which lubricates the engine required to make our parliamentarians and senators successful. So in addition to sharing my vision from the executive side, it's certainly along with our team collectively, because we rely on a team effort. It's not just myself, as I often say. You know, I'm not Jesus, but even if I was Jesus, Jesus himself sought the help of 12 people. So the objective of our team is to make sure that we lubricate that engine so that when the MPs are doing what they need to do politically, there is no second guessing as to where the party stands or what resources may be required and so on and so forth. So I've had a wonderful run so far for the past 6 months. It is a 2-year term. And I expect that we're just going to go from strength to strength, both on the executive side and in the parliamentary side.
Awesome. How can the OBA be more effective opposition to the government?
Well, therein lies the operative word, isn't it? Effective. I mean, we realize that for a government to be effective, it must also have, an effective opposition. And in order to succeed, the OBA recognizes certainly that to prove itself to the electorate, we must be in effective opposition by winning back that trust of the electorate and showing that we are a viable alternative. We are a body capable of governing the interests of all Bermudians. Hence the title of our party, One Bermuda Alliance. We believe in the core of our hearts that everything we do must be taking into account all Bermudians, whether one is well-to-do or downtrodden and everybody in between. That is the government of the future for this country, and that is what we truly feel we represent. And so we rely on a lot of our core strengths that we currently have to ensure that we take into consideration things like inclusion and integrity and financial responsibility. And as a result, we've got a cross-section of candidates within our party. I mean, we've got professionals within the legal profession, regulatory and compliance. We've got risk management, insurance, underwriters. We've got entrepreneurs. We've got tradespeople. We've even got youth. And of late, we've been very excited as to the interest. As a matter of fact, just this morning, I got a call from one of our approved candidates to say, hey, I've got 2 people on the docket here that would like to speak with the party. Whom shall I direct them to first? And so that's very exciting for us and very exciting for Bermuda in this political juncture.
Interesting. The PLP have the large majority in the House, in fact, 30 seats to 6. What is the OBA doing to reduce the deficit in that next general election?
Well, there's 2 things. How do you reduce the deficit? You can either cut back in your spending and or increase your revenues. Our government has always been one that our party, well, we will be the government. Believes in the latter, and that is first and foremost, we must think about increasing revenues. It's easy to cut. Anybody can cut. You can, if you give yourself $100 budget to spend on the weekend, you can cut that back to $50. No big deal. But are you going to have the same fulfillment that you had at the $100 level? What you can do is find out how to better your station in life by increasing your income, increasing your revenues.
Let me just cut you off. I think she's asking about the deficit of the 30 to 6, not the
Oh, I'm sorry. The deficit. And what are we doing? So could you repeat the question then? Because
I'm sorry. There's 30 seats.
Yes.
Right. And OBA has 6. And how is the OBA doing to reduce the deficit in the next general election?
The deficit, in other words, how we can get to 30.
Yes.
yes, of course. Well, we're actively working to earn the trust of the electorate on 2 fronts. One, as you can see, we're out there in the media. We're doing op-eds. We're asking questions in the House of Assembly. Big bone of contention, for example, last week, we're bringing things to the fore, like the amount of consultants that Bermuda has. These are not things that are talked about by the government or talked about by the electorate in general. For the most part, that they're not aware or perhaps informed to some degree. So it's our job, on the one hand, to bring to light those issues that concern Bermudians so that they can understand what our thinking process is and what we represent. Secondly, we're building trust by also strengthening ourselves within. We're preparing over the next several weeks to months, you'll see us unveiling a line of candidates. We're also tightening up at this point, we're near the end, our platform. And why is that important? Because I can tell you, and as every Bermudian desires to know, when I became chairman in October, the first thing that folks were asking me was, who are your candidates and what's your platform? And that's pretty basic in politics. And so we realized right away that, hey, you know what? For us to even get the attention of the electorate, first and foremost, we must let them know who our candidates are, what we represent. Because you're not buying the party, you're buying into the party, you're buying into us. If you believe in us, then you believe in the brand, and then therefore you believe that we are a viable alternative to govern you. And the second thing, of course, is we're working the platform. And as I say, we're solidifying that. We're not going to give our secrets all the way today or in the near future. But by showing the electorate that we are that viable alternative, they know who we are, what we represent, that will invariably, over time, offer that balance. We don't need 30 seats to win the government. A government essentially can comfortably govern with 20 seats because one has to be the speaker. But of course, we don't just want to win 20 seats, naturally. But that's the trajectory which we are on, and we're very excited about that. And we're hoping that we can translate that aura of excitement and hope to the electorate so that they see that, in fact, there is a viable alternative. The electorate are yearning for an alternative. They don't want to see 30-6. I mean, the government themselves have said that, hey, we don't care what they say because whatever they say, we'll do the opposite. Well, the math rules. Who has the gold makes the rules, and they right now have the gold. They have the numbers. And so we will invariably work towards balancing that act and hopefully superseding the required number to form the next government.
Mm-hmm. And in trying to obtain those seats, how does the OBA recruit candidates?
Well, I hate to use the word recruit because it almost sounds military and it sounds like, hey, you must join us. But in essence, through word of mouth primarily, we are spreading the word. As I say, just this morning we had inquiry. I had an inquiry about 2 candidates that are interested. Just for the past couple of months, we've had probably about a half dozen candidates walking through our doors. But there's a process for us. We believe in quality, not just quantity. Naturally, quantity is the name of the game in politics, but we believe in quality. And so we have a qualification process. We have a slew of candidates that are approved. But ultimately, we need them to be adopted as per our Constitution. And what that means is that, hey, at the end of the day, if you say, Ms. Sherry Vanderpool is an adopted candidate for constituency X, that means she now owns it. It's no different than a salesman going into a sales career, and his director of sales says to him, hey, okay, that's your territory. Do with it as you please. You're the king of that jungle. And so whilst we have a whole slew of approved candidates, we then will qualify them. And there's a process by which we do that. We qualify them. Initially, how to use your term recruit, as I say, it's word of mouth. And what I find interesting about Bermuda, it's quite easily to sway Bermudians to do one thing or not to do one thing. The old saying, you do something good, no one remembers. You do something bad, nobody forgets. Well, that you do something bad, nobody forgets thing seems to stick with politics in Bermuda. But because of the good that we've been doing in the past, and even preceding myself, I've only been with the party approximately a year. They've seen that since the last election, hey, this is not the old OBA. I often say loosely around the headquarters, it's a new day at the OBA. That's not our new tagline by any means, but it's to let them know that all these narratives and, it's a white party or it's a this party, it's a that party. We understand the pains and the politics and the history of politics in Bermuda. But the past resides in our head. There's an old saying, yesterday's history, tomorrow's a mystery, today's a gift, that's why they call it the present. All that past is in our head. We're the here and now. We have to rethink, reimagine, and recreate. This is the theme that I try to perpetuate amongst headquarters. But that also applies to Bermuda. It applies to our tourism industry. Jamel and I touched up briefly on that earlier. We have to rethink, revisit what we were and what we reimagine ourselves to be, and then recreate that which we wish. And in so transferring that theme, we are attracting candidates to us because they're saying, hey, you know what? We had a 30-plus-year-old in the office just not too long ago. And third-generation PLP, and he says, I don't like the way the country is going. And but I appreciate and I see what the OBA is representing. And that's exciting to me as a chairman, as I know is exciting for every member of our party, because that shows that that narrative of what people thought we were is no longer, or it's becoming less of. And Bermudians care about the future more than they do so much about the past, not negating the past or the pains of the past.
It's audience, if you have any questions or comments, please send them through. We'll get through as many as possible. Well, Charles H. Jeffs II, he has a question. He says, with the OBA always being tied to the UBP, rightly or wrongly, why do you believe the OBA will win an election anytime soon? And let's just be clear, because I think I said this when Douglas Takuto was on. And I say this as respectful as possible. The past isn't all in our heads. The past is in the way we live. The past has dictated where we are today. The past has a strong undoing in the way that certain things have been set up legacy-wise. That's why majority of companies and businesses, major ones in Bermuda, don't have Black ownership or CEOs. So let's just be honest about that. The past does have a huge role. However, that's not to say that the government of today is doing anything that's going to be in the best interest of the people who basically they're using to get in power. So with what Charles is saying, I think there's another part to this. The OBA came in power in 2012. Whatever happened with Mr. Cannonier, he resigned. That's neither here nor there right now. Mr. Dunkley became premier. Within months of that, the entire cabinet was UBP. There are people who weren't alive for the UBP that are voting age right now, but they do know the OBA. Does that not, and to Charles's point, does that not concern you all? And if it does, how do you get around that to actually win an election? Because yes, I agree, Bermudians want an alternative. We cannot keep going down the road we're on. But you guys have your work cut out because you have to build, as you said earlier, that trust. And I'd love to know, again, you can't give it away all, but as Charles is asking, how do you do that to win an election anytime soon?
So I agree with you with regards to that the past comment that you just made. Yes, the past is in everybody's DNA, be it politics, be it in our genetics, and so on and so forth. You know what's interesting is every time I hear those three letters, and I'm banned from saying them because we have a rolling joke in our headquarters that every time those three letters are used, there is a tip jar. And I hate to be putting into my own tip jar here in my office here. And that is a narrative. But that was a reality at one point. Yes. Folks talk about those, well, I have to say it, UBP. You realize that there's more UBP DNA in the PLP today than there is in the OBA? I mean, the three longest standing members of Parliament today, and I stand to be corrected, I believe, are Speaker Lister, Honorable Member Michael Dunkley, and Honorable Member, Cole Simons, of which it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out that they won't be around forever and ever and ever and ever. Perhaps the three of them in short order. I don't know for a fact, but we can just assume that for a moment. And so that being the case, there's a transformation taking place, not just within the OBA, but within the PLP, because I would hasten to add that probably by the next election, there's at least a half a dozen members of the PLP, be it through seniority or personal reasons or whatever, that will not be running. And so the narrative of that, we're a former UBP, and how do we get away from that? I think I just explained that. We are not that former UBP. Now, the OBA, from what I understand, because I wasn't around, but I was overseas following politics, started as a result of discontent within the UBP. And as a result, the OBA was formed for various reasons, be it Black politicians felt disenfranchised or it was an elitist party, whatever those multiple reasons were, and rightly so. So the OBA began. Now, I don't recall in the past when I grew up, because I'm 58 years old, so I've been following politics for 40 years, and then some. When the NLP began, I don't remember people saying, oh, that's just the PLP. When the FDM began, I don't recall people saying, oh, that's just the PLP. I understand there's slightly different reasons for them saying, oh, the OBA, that's just the UBP, because for the reasons you just mentioned, there was a migration of certain UBPs. But again, I go back to what I just said. There is more UBP DNA in the PLP today than UBP DNA within the OBA. And oddly enough, we probably have, hello?
We're here.
Oh, sorry, my screen just went blank. Okay, I guess my computer went asleep. Maybe I'm boring the computer too.
No, I'm enjoying it.
But the last point I was going to make with regards to that was, oddly enough, we probably have more PLP DNA within our OBA today than PLP has OBA DNA. And why is that important? We have a gentleman whose grandfather, if I'm not mistaken, was one of the founders of the PLP. We have had a senator who was a lifelong member of the PLP. We have a candidate who's in the insurance industry who was also with the PLP, and there's a couple others that don't come to mind at the moment. So what I'm saying is, when people classify us as that white party or that old UBP, the times have changed. It's like, I feel like the Jeffersons, we're moving on up. And we're moving on up into the right direction because we are one Bermuda. We want to represent all Bermudians, not just this color or that color. And the other thing that bugs me as well is that when people say, oh, because you're black, you must vote PLP, or because you're white, you must vote UBP. You know, our beloved Barack Obama, who was the United States' first black president. Now, Jamal, I understand you live, and I think I just learned this morning that Sherry also lived in the States. Now, my stats may be off a little bit, but the black population in the United States is 15%, 20 at most, let's say, right?
12, 13%, I believe.
Fair enough. You're even helping me out even more. It took a heck of a lot of white folk to vote for a black president. So why in Bermuda must we consistently live in this narrative that if you're black, you must vote PLP, and if you're white, you must vote OBA? And if you're mixed, as many of us are, then you're kind of like going to be confused until you get into that ballot box.
But I think that comes from data where traditionally 97% or whatever it was voted UBP. Well, to keep UBP to impose, black people had to vote for both. But I actually don't disagree with anything you said. I just want to add this to be clear. The UBP, the PLP MPs that were in the UBP, the Honorable Minister William Furbett, Kim Swan, and both were served as leaders of the UBP, and also Jamal Simmons, who I believe was a member of the NLP, PLP, and a member of Parliament for the UBP. So I just want to make sure people understand that and clear. Folks, if you have any questions. Now, I want to talk tactics. And again, you can't share, I understand that. But as I've said to Doug DeCuto, and I've said to many others, when that green, when the Premier David Burt drops that writ up Government House, that big green machine goes into overload. And the number one thing that they push right now, Bermudians will tell you they have issues with jobs. They have issues with crime, education, healthcare. All of that's going to be at the forefront right now. But once that writ drops, it's like clockwork. In 2012, it didn't work. They dropped the document, right? The document about how to get the black vote and split parties and then combine and all of that. It didn't work then because people didn't go to the polls.
Correct.
We know full well that once that writ's drop, it's going to go in overdrive. This is the UBP, this, black this, white that. My question to you, because I don't think the OBA has done a job of it, how do you deal with that when it seems like it's regularly ignored? And I'm not saying it is ignored. The general public would say, well, they got the optics, they got the black members, but do they have the ideology? Because we haven't talked about ideology here today.
Sure.
So how do you overcome that? Because it's coming. You know it.
Sure. Well, I think, if these are my terms, I think one of the issues that the former party had, not our party, the former, was that they didn't either believe in or promote social conscience. And that is something that is huge now the world over. You cannot no longer, look, there are more billionaires being created at a rate unprecedented than any other time in the world. Same thing with millionaires, right? So it's not about net worth anymore. It's about how can we take care of our people, whether it's here, overseas, or what have you. And I got to tell you, the current government is not doing that either. Last summer, I had high-ranking PLP, not ministers, not parliamentarians, high-ranking, I'm talking at the branch level, meeting with me. They called to meet with me. I wasn't even chair. I was just a caucus guy. To tell me that they needed us desperately to form a viable alternative. Because if we did not, there were going to be PLP, and this is their words, almost verbatim, there were going to be PLP supporters in every constituency that were going to stay home. Now, why do I say that? Them staying home, their voters staying home, is not a strategy of ours. That is a negative for the government. But what we can do is, with that, knowing that we've got the appeal of that marginal voter, we then need to demonstrate, and I believe we will see us demonstrating more so in the ensuing months, how we wish and believe we can be that party which believes in integrity, inclusion, of fiscal responsibility, but at the same time also have a social conscience, which is a hard balance to achieve, whether it's OBA, PLP, or whatever party around the world. Because usually you're taking care of your people and not the others. That's the way politics has usually worked. But we understand that balance. Again, when I'm in the headquarters, I point up to our banners there, and I say, look at our title. What is our party named? One Bermuda Alliance. The alliance is there because we know the history of the party. One Bermuda. That means everything we do must include all Bermudians, all aspects of everybody in every class with that social conscience. I don't want to hear that we're going to do this, and that, have the best education in the world, and have the best healthcare, and have the best and the best and the best. But that must include all segments of our society. Because if we're not taking care of the downtrodden and we don't have a social conscience, then we haven't achieved our job, and we don't deserve to be a viable alternative. And I believe that's how we will eventually and continuously, as we have been doing, capture the attention of the OBA, of the electorate. And that's why we're having, to be honest with you, we're having more people from PLP support interested in the OBA than traditional OBA support. And I find that, one, interesting, and two, exciting.
So here's the thing. So Maya mentioned it earlier, and I can't stand June. I can't stand February, Black History Month and Pride Month. I think it is disingenuous. It's not genuine from most corporations. And it comes across as optics, right? More than anything. Like, I'm going to turn my logo this color. I'm going to put the black fists up in Black History Month. It's just, it annoys me. Like, if I could turn the internet off and still do this show for those 2 months, I would. But why do I say that? I've experienced it in tourism. I've experienced it in various jobs where we say we're diverse, right? We have, people of all backgrounds. And then when you look at the decision-making positions, they're not diverse. So we give the diverse people, get them on board for the optics. That leads me to Karen Simmons. She's asking, instead of just the optics of having the Black/diverse members in the OBA, do these members have decision-making empowerment capacity within the party?
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that this question is asked, because I often get asked, and I hate when color comes into politics, but it's a reality of Bermuda. I lived in Toronto, as I mentioned. 200 countries represented in Toronto with 250 languages and dialects. My children are of mixed heritage. Their kids will be quarter. Color does not even factor in decision making. You can't use the race card in the Caribbean. It's a non-starter. So I'm glad you asked that question. And within our party, we're labeled as a white party with a Black leader. We're told that the party is run by certain white members when we've got an equal amount of, I don't know if it's 50-50, but pretty close. That's probably at 50-50 for sure, of Black and white. Everybody is empowered in our party. We had, since I've been with the party, we had one caucus meeting, which was required and necessary, and it was painful. And you know what it was on? Race relations. And whilst we thought we were going to be talking about race relations as it pertains to Bermuda and politics in general, it ended up being a conversation about race relations within our caucus. And it was the most therapeutic session, one of the most that I've experienced thus far. And why was that? Because we had Black, white, Portuguese, this, that, everybody speaking from their heart, and understanding that, look, see that name One Bermuda? That's us. Look around the room. And while some of one color or another color may have felt uncomfortable, by the time we left that room, we understood that, hey, you know what? If we are to govern the people of Bermuda and bridge race relations, it has to start here. And it definitely did. And from there, it's only mushroom, where there's never an opportunity, at least that I see, in that room, where irrespective of color, you're not empowered to speak, to give opinions. It's a caucus. We have to come to some consensus from time to time. But there's never any discrimination of that sort. And I'm telling you that from the bottom of my heart. And if anybody tells you otherwise in the media tomorrow, they're not telling the truth. Because that is our party. Because again, we're reminded every time we look in the wall and we see One Bermuda, it reminds us that we are One Bermuda. Now, you may look at me as a Black man, a white man, a Portuguese man, or whatever man you want. That's defined by yourself. What you think of me is not my business. But what we think of the people of Bermuda is our business. And so I hope that answers the question. And that is, I welcome that individual or any individual to walk up our steps. And as I constantly say, because whilst I'm the chairman of the party, I'm not the chairman of the candidate select committee, but I sit on that committee. And I've said to whether they're white or they're Black, but I get more excited when they're a former PLP support. And I say to them, the fact that you've come up these steps tells me that you've crossed that bridge, because I know when you leave, you're going to think totally different about why it was you came up into these steps. And that's a big step for people. And so this is what my message is to the people of Bermuda today is don't think of us as per that old narrative. Yes, there's some remnants of that because that's what transitions and transitions are about. But we are a transformation party, and we're heading in the right direction. I firmly believe. And once you get to know us as individuals and as parties, as a party, you will be as excited as I was. Because let me tell you, Jamal and Sherry, in closing, if we're going to close soon, when I came to Bermuda a year and a half ago, I was a youth MP back in Bermuda college days. So politics has somewhat always been in my blood. And I was having dinner with somebody at a function about 3 months after I arrived, and the conversation of politics came up, and it didn't last long, maybe 5 to 10 minutes at the absolute most. And I said, yeah, I always had a desire one day to get back involved in the politics, So being a youth MP is not really the big boys, right, and gals. And that individual took that at heart. And the next thing, within like 24, 48 hours most, I got a call, the leader of the opposition would like to meet with you. And that excited me. But I never thought I would be associated with the OBA for the same reasons that are being questioned right now. Because I thought, I want to make a contribution. I've got 15 minutes of representing this island, humbly overseas for 15 years. So I figured I'm just probably going to try to join a board or something like that, help the current government. And look at that, fast forward. So how I got to know what the OBA was about moving forward, I'm appealing to the people of Bermuda today, and I'll be the chief salesman for this segment and say, you really want to know what Bermuda's viable alternative is in the future, and you want a new representation, people that's going to represent all of Bermuda from the top down and bottom up, then speak with us. Email myself. Go to our website, oba.bm. We are here for you to answer questions.
We are out of time, but I'm not letting you out that smoothly because I have a lot of follow-ups to what you just said. The first one is mentioning color. I too don't want to talk about color, but race has nothing to do with color. Let me just break it down to you, as I said.
Good point. Very good point.
This show has existed since 2023. Outside of Lindo's, all of our partners or sponsors, advertisers, are either Black-owned businesses or Black CEOs. That's racism. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about, the systemic issues. That's where we're talking about. So when I don't like the idea of color, and I don't think politics should come down to race, especially when the current government in Bermuda has done nothing to improve race relations. Let's just be honest, right? Let's be honest. So I agree with you there. I just want to share a comment. It's pretty big, so I'm probably just going to read it. Michelle White says, I'll just take it out. Notwithstanding the OBA's current efforts to increase active politicians, is there an internal plan to get the newbie up and running and public-facing ASAP? Until an election is called, we should be hearing from all selected persons. They should be focusing on becoming a household name. Robin Tucker is in my constituency, and she has reached my house more than any politician from any party, and we have been here for 33 plus years. Actually, I just sent Robin Tucker a LinkedIn request this morning, which is funny, but she seems like she's setting the example of what we should be expecting of all politicians, regardless of party. But speak to us about that, if you don't mind, like how you go about training people to do that. And congratulations to you, Robin Tucker. I don't know what constituency that is.
Yeah, that's constituency 7 for, and yes, Robin is an excellent example of that. Well, as I said, once they are an approved candidate or they're a member of our caucus, then there's a series of steps that they go through in order to become adopted. However, throughout that process, for example, if you're approved and you say, I have a desire in constituency X, you will go out there and canvass with one of our experienced politicians or experienced caucus members or an experienced adopted candidate for that matter. And so you will be very excited to learn, and I can assure you, I can promise you this part, without unveiling too much today, that over the course of, say, the next just 3 months alone, you'll see quite the transformation in the OBA. You will be seeing an unveiling of candidates periodically from sprinkled throughout the various constituencies on island. Not the current MPs you see now. They will eventually be formally unveiled as well, but Robin Tucker being an example, people know she's a senator and so on and so forth. We're talking about newer candidates. And as you start to see this unveiling of new candidates, and of course, understanding a little bit more of our platform as well, you will then start to understand where we are going, what that trajectory is. I didn't see the question in full, it was pretty long, but I hope I've understood that, at least in principle.
You got it.
address that, at least in principle.
You got it. I'll just go to two more comments. Rashida Godwin says the first true election under true universal adult suffrage with one man, one vote of equal value took place in 2003, and therefore it's still a long way to go. Nothing has changed. Learn history. And then Mark Arthur C. Phillips says, Mr. Medeiros, please pass this to your party. Talk is cheap. Actions speak louder than words. We as a community are watching. Look, as you head out, I agree with you. It's about quality, not quantity. You have some excellent people. I think Jaron Richardson has is making a great connection. You just saw Michelle White speaking about Robin Tucker. You have Dwayne Robinson. Not sure if Vic Ball's still involved. You definitely have some good candidates. I think we want to see. We had the chairman of the Road Safety Council yesterday speaking about the board and how they want someone with legal expertise. And you did something earlier. You mentioned people from different spaces. I tell you what I say all the time. I don't care if the party looks white or black. I care about diversity of thought, right? To me, that's more important. There's no point in having black faces if their thoughts are not thinking like how we're trying to get to a space of togetherness and understanding and legislation and policies that are going to give equity to all, right? We need diversity of thought where there are people in that room who are going to fight and argue like Sherry and I do to get to some solutions. We don't need people in there that, okay, that's what we're going to do and just follow along. I think in Bermuda, with all political parties in my lifetime, using the government whip, Sherry, like it's vote party line, vote on these issues. But I mean, it's just, that's to me, I don't know if that's going to change anytime soon, but we want diversity of thought. I think I'm speaking for my friends in my circle and me. That's what we truly want. And if you give us candidates like that, I cannot see why the OBA cannot reduce that 30 and improve on that 6, whether that means an immediate victory or if it's a step towards that. But I appreciate you being open and coming on and having this conversation. I definitely, I had no idea, who you are. I've never had a conversation. But before you go, because I look, we're both passionate about tourism. We both served as business development managers for Bermuda. Tourism's a political football. Let's call it what it is. I currently work in a space where we have our own challenges, right? But we're setting records year after year, more investment, more people want to build hotels. Bermuda has a problem. We don't have hotel properties, right? We don't have airlift. I just looked for a ticket to Bermuda. I was like, where am I flying? To Dubai? Across the way. Just using your experience, if you don't mind, just what's your concerns about tourism and what do you think we need to do to basically improve our tourism numbers?
You just hit the nail on the head. It's infrastructure. Long are the days where we had categories of hotels. We had resort hotels, which typically were the convention hotels with the beachfront, some of them like Elbow Beach, for example. Then we had smaller hotels, which maybe were not 300 and 400 rooms, but were 100, 150. And then we had the cottage colonies, of which we still have one or two around, Cambridge Beaches being an example. And then we have, I believe, we invented the Airbnb concept. We had housekeeping facilities, both large and small. That has changed over the years because we became a victim of our own success in Bermuda, back starting from the 90s. And anybody that had a housekeeping facility and had to worry about, turning beds and that sort of thing as an entrepreneur thought, I don't need this house, so I'm just going to rent this out and get my $2,000, $3,000 a month, what have you. So we've made such a dramatic shift away from tourism. Somebody just said earlier, talk is cheap. I don't want to get political about it again, but yeah, talk has been cheap when it comes to tourism because we ourselves as a country have made a conscious decision to move away from tourism. We thought, and thankfully the IB sector has held our own, but we thought that IB would be the be all and end all. No. You know what? You just hit the nail on the head. Without the infrastructure, right? Without branded name hotels, our airlift will always be challenged. Why do we need branded hotels? Grotto Bay, for example, very successful, Bermudian owned and the like. Grotto Bay, at the end of the day, cannot compete with a big brand like a Marriott or Ritz or that sort of thing. Why? Or the Fairmont. Because if you're in an airplane and you're looking at an airplane magazine, there may be 2 glossy pages there, which cost millions as a campaign throughout that airline, say if it's an American carrier especially. And they may be advertising Fairmont in Hawaii, but then they have that little list of Bermuda. a list of Fairmont hotels, and there's Fairmont Bermuda, it used to be Fairmont Hamilton, Fairmont Southampton. We don't have that leverage anymore. And so it becomes increasingly more difficult just to market the destination. But first and foremost, we got to get the infrastructure in place. If we don't have Bermudians that are interested, and thankfully Bermudian families like the Greens invested in the Hamilton Princess, then we have to look to foreign investment. I know the government is trying, but I'll tell you what, talk is cheap. Because I remember a former minister of tourism, eventually became premier of this island, said to us back in the double O's that we were in a platinum era of tourism. And when I look back in the last 25 years, and I was back in the UBP days, I've had about 5 ministers, 5 directors of tourism, and 3 or 4 directors of sales. I've been through the whole gamut. And when I heard the PLP say that we were in a platinum era of tourism, from the turn of the century to today, the only turn that you ever saw in tourism and in hotel infrastructure was when the OBA was in power. I can't take credit for that because I wasn't around in terms of being involved in politics. But that's the only time. And so talk is cheap, and talk has become especially cheap with this current administration because they've done nothing to entice and more specifically encourage Bermudians to keep this as a viable industry. I know it's a hard industry. You know, Jamel, you know what I'm talking about. It's a seasonal industry. But that does, notwithstanding, that should not preclude us from understanding that tourism is the bedrock of which everything else was built on.
Yeah. I before you head out, one last question. Will you be putting your name in to be a candidate for the next election?
Well, just to be transparent, because that is a big thing within our party as well, is to be transparent. I am an approved candidate. I have not, to this day, agreed to take on a constituency, nor have I necessarily been offered one, because 2 things happen within our party. You express a desire to be a candidate in a particular constituency, and if it's open or in transition, your wish may be granted. If not, then we have to look at where there are openings. So having said that, long and short is I have not put my name to be a candidate as such. I am learning every day. I'm having a wonderful time learning, participating, contributing. I've been asked to have a greater voice. I'm humbled that they asked me to be a chairman of this party just after 6 months of being in caucus. I don't take that lightly, but it's not about me. It's about my team. And if I have the privilege of one day being a candidate, I will look very much forward to once again being in the original House of Assembly, not the temporary one, which I understand why it's temporary, because I remember standing as a youth parliamentarian in that office, in that chamber, and oddly enough, this is no lie, I don't know if it's because I was the tallest or the ugliest or whatever the case may be, but they put me in the front of the line and I ended right there, and when I looked and I sat down, guess whose name was on the template at the chair, at the desk where I sat? Lois Brown Evans. And I never forgot that. And I thought at the time, well, I don't know if that means one day I should be a PLP member or a member of something else. The OBA didn't exist. But, and then you had John Swan on, Sir John, pardon me, of which I also admire very much not too long ago. And I have a picture in the paper with him as a youth MP, being a page for him during his tenure. So it's in my blood. I'm not going to say no, but it's certainly something that I would consider.
Well, if you do, good luck. Thank you so much for this conversation. We'd love to have more conversations with folks from the OBA again. It's really about connecting with people at this point. We know what the election cycle is like in Bermuda. Thank you. If there's any time that you need to communicate with us, please reach out. But thank you so much, Aguinaldo.
I feel blessed, and thank you and Sherry for the opportunity. All the best. Bye
for now. We appreciated today's conversation. Please give us a thumbs up, a love, a like. Make sure you share this conversation with your friends, your family. Political conversations start arguments. Hey, have a debate. We're going to take a quick break, come back, wrap it up, and it's daily playtime as well. You don't want to miss this.
If you haven't been to ER Fisheries in a while, it's time to hop in the car, drive east, and come check out what we have to offer. ER Fisheries and Foods is a Bermuda-based food company that sells a variety of food products to local customers. We are of course known for high-quality food items, including specialty meats and seafood, but we offer so much more. We have evolved from a small community-driven ordering window to a modern freezer front with easily accessible products. Our newly revamped store offers customers a top-tier shopping experience, and we also offer delivery. Regardless of your preferences or diet, we have something for everyone, including chicken, many varieties of seafood, pork, lamb, beef, plant-based items, fruit and veggies, bread, dairy, and grocery items. So come check us out for your specialty grocery needs. ER Fisheries is open Monday through Saturday from 10 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. at 134 Marginal Wharf, Southside St. David's.
Alrighty, thanks again to Aguinaldo Medeiros from the One Bermuda Alliance for the conversation today. Again, give us a thumbs up, a love, a like if you appreciated the information and conversation. Thanks again to the BAC group of companies, Medicals, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy for ensuring we can have these conversations with you on a daily basis. It's time for the Daily Play, brought to you by Bermuda Trivia. Excuse me. Now available at stores throughout Bermuda. Follow Bermuda Trivia on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok to find out why it's Bermuda's favorite trivia game. Sherry, are you ready?
I am, Jamal. Let's go. Let's have it.
All right. It's the things you should know, Sherry. Here we go. Since we talked about pickleball, I think this is appropriate. In order to win a game of tennis, 4 points must be scored. The first point is called 15. The second is called 30. What is the third point called?
Deuce. They say deuce. No? Love? No. Oh.
You said love. Yes. Deuces fan is both 40-40, Sherry.
Okay. I'm like, oh my goodness, my father would be like so upset with me. He is a tennis,
They said Etienne Bronze have 40, Karen Sims have 40. Yeah, it is 40 points, but it's referred to as Aaron Smith and Sherry said it's love. It's love. 45.
I'm excited. I got it. Yeah, there's no 45s.
There's no 90 either, but yeah, it's love.
Yeah.
So it's 15 love. French Open's on right now too. Sherry, let's final thoughts of today's show. Obviously, the discussion about and it looks like we got a message from Shawande. So I'm wondering, I'm gonna put him on his spot if we can get him on Monday. I don't think we have a guest. See if we can get him on Monday. So let's make. Final thoughts on that discussion, and then obviously the good conversation with Aguinaldo Medeiros from the One Bermuda Alliance.
Yeah, we both must have got a message from him. So yeah, I would love to hear from Shawande. I am like yourself in this situation, Jamal. There's many different perspectives to that particular situation, but I think it's best for us to understand the history part of it. But I also believe that there needs to be a conversation with the troop and the kids in regards to that and what it looks like. Things on social media, we tend to put our own spin on it. Let's just hopefully find out the true reason and the information behind it. As far as Mr. Medeiros, because I in my mind, I was trying to say his name and I was very proud of you for being able to pronounce it. I appreciate him coming on, speaking to us more about the OBA and what they are having to offer. But I think Mark Arthur C. Phillips said, a lot of talk, we want to see some action. So I just need the party to do that.
Yeah, I think, when I think about what we can learn from the Gombe incident, I think what comes to mind is, people develop opinions based on what they see, how it makes them feel a lot of the times. And if someone was watching that video, they don't know the history. They don't sometimes feel like they need to know, right? It's like seeing somebody be abused. They don't need to know what led to it. They just know what they saw. So we have to just keep that in perspective and not dismiss it. I think what I learned is this is an opportunity for us to really teach the history and traditions and cultures of things like the Gombe. That's what I feel like I've learned from this. We need to get people, because I'm telling you, there are a lot of people that did not know that they weren't supposed to break the line. Mm-hmm. As far as Mr. Medeiros, Aguinaldo, I appreciate the conversation. Again, I don't want conversations to be all about race, but the truth is, when it comes to elections, not necessarily politics, but elections in Bermuda, once that writ is dropped, as I say all the time, that green machine goes in overdrive. And the One Bermuda Alliance has got to find out a strategy in dealing with that and combating, that sort of campaign. Truth, I believe all of us need to be focused on policies and legislation. Policies and legislation that are going to help us live better lives. Sherry, you've got some daily inspiration for us?
I do. Your daily inspiration is being brought to you by ER Fisheries. Life is very short. What we have to do must be done in the now. And that's from Audre Lorde, who was a poet, a librarian, feminist, and equal rights activist.
All right. Thank you so much. And folks, don't forget to subscribe on our website, thedailyhour.com. Follow us on all of our social media channels to stay up to date with all that we have going on. Help us grow beyond the mic as we do our part to continue to improve our community. Thanks again to the BAC group of companies, Medicals, Lindos, and People's Pharmacy for ensuring that we're able to do this with you on a daily basis. As always, we appreciate you. We love you, and we thank you for making us part of your daily routine. If all goes well, we'll be back to do this again with you on Monday. Please. Very good. Sherry Vanderpool, I'm Jamal Hartman, my friends. Please do make it a safe and a great weekend. We'll see you on the other side.